Hello and welcome. This is the very first of the Functional Expert series by Bailey Partners, and I'm very, very happy to welcome Juuso, Enjala today. Now, what's this series is all going to be about is really about leadership and looking at different functional expertise and how we can help with such things as organizational leadership. So our topic today is around service management. And I'm going to ask Juuso to explain to us a little bit more about what service management is. But before we do that, why would we want to be asking Juuso about these things? Well, he's an experienced consultant and trainer, got very deep experience in service management, project leadership, execution excellence, and as the principal trainer and consultant at Easy Company, which is a Finnish company focused on service and project delivery. I know Juuso from 17 years experience in the ICT sector, probably about half of that time that we've known each other. And Juuso has been a successful growth CEO of an IT company in the education sector. And also he's former Finnish Defence Forces as well. And as we know, there's a lot of excitement out there about things like dual technologies, etc. today. I'm joined by my colleague, Andrew Bailey. We're both managing partners at Bailey Partners, and we are going to be putting Juuso under the cosh today with our questions as he goes through as well. So Juuso, let's start with your story. I mean, we know you for training and consulting, but how did you get into this work in the first place?
Thank you for having me, Rob and Andrew. It's an honor, and thanks for your question. Yeah, so little short story of me, like you mentioned, 17 years already in IT, and being in different places, but the main thing in my career has been a software, and last let's say 3 years now I'm doing this consultancy from my own company, Easy Company. And the foundation of this company was in the idea when I was seeing myself as a servant more than a leader, and I understood that everything today is IT enabled. You can't think any service in the world that there is no IT involved. So I check my background myself and was thinking like, what can I give this world? And I saw that services, there's a lot of different kind of services, and we're talking more about today, but that's mainly from me. And as you mentioned, I started with the Finnish Defense Forces in the Air Force. There as well, I was working in IT communication systems for fighter jets up in the sky. And since from them, I've been really interested of how service management work and how projects are led and what happened when there is a successful project.
So service management. What is service? What is service management?
Service management. I've seen that word like pointed up perhaps first time in 1970s or so, and I'm not sure about who can own the rights for using this word, but mainly for my life it came from UK government. So there is this really great organization in history called CCTA, which is coming from Central Computer and Telecommunications Agency.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, everybody knows that as a word service has been here, but service management came from CCTE, which is a UK-based companies, and there's a really great story behind it. We were living in 75 to 79, and there was this really powerful female in the politics of UK, Margaret Thatcher. So Margaret Thatcher was a person who was putting her wrist on the table and saying like, we really need to have something. We need to have some method or some process or some model where we can, lead these IT-based but also other based projects to their goal and not over budgeting things, and try to keep our schedules and stuff. So that mainly 1970 something came then service management, and today, as we know it's everywhere, and we see everything as a service today.
Know that story. That's really interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. I think I'd first have heard of ITIL because I had an old friend from university who joined the Adjutant General Corps for the British Army. So it's something that they use for, again, because technology is touching so many things. And that, ITIL, I mean, it'd be interesting, just tell us what ITIL stands for. And I think we're now at ITIL 4, and it'd be interesting to see how that's developed. And then as well as ITIL, I know that you're also doing training on PRINCE2 as well. And I'd really like to understand the difference between ITIL on the technology service management, and then say PRINCE2 in terms of the disciplines of project management. What are the differences between those two things? Because I, for one, have often thought of them as interchangeable and got muddled up. So
Yeah.
that's let's put it this way. I would really like to understand and dispel plenty myths on that, and then also have a look to delve deeper into best practices of where they both fit in or complement, and indeed, what are the competing methodologies as well?
Yeah, definitely. And if we can start of not using any model or anything, every company, it can manage to do somehow something. But like I mentioned, the when there's a huge projects, when there's a huge services needs to be installed, then we should have something common that everybody knows what language we are talking in this company. So if I start with the ITIL first, ITIL is connected to service management, and this comes from information technology infrastructure library. So you can think about like a library as a books, and you can read the books if you want, or you don't. So, and if you have some like kind of a problem in your service, you can go to the library and find the right book, and just take that part of the library and the book, So you don't need to take care of a whole library. So it's also really common if there is any coders or software developers, they understand really nicely when we're talking about library that when you're using some part of program or so. So ITIL is mainly came in 2002, the first, when they were using this name ITIL, and 2002 it came for processes. And if you go back in time, and those of you you have been working in 2000, you remember somehow that we were talking more about processes. So when we have a sales process or we have like R&D process or any other processes, and when we establish a process, then everything is fine, right? But then we start to realize that that's not enough, that we just have like a process. So 2007 there came a model where we started to think about like a life cycle of processes and life cycle of services. And as you mentioned, Rob, just quickly, we are in the version of ITIL 4, where there is now like flexible ways of dealing with services. There is this agile style of doing things and DevOps and stuff like that. Also, ITIL 5 might come one day, and I'm quite sure that there's sustainability involved, since we have all started to think green IT and start to take care of our beloved Earth. So that's the service management side. So if you check the competing methods, there's more than 40 different kind of methods in the world. But as I mentioned, the background, this is from UK. And as you might know, that UK have been all over the world. So this is the most wide method used today. And there's a rich history behind it. And so that necessarily don't matter how many competing methods there are. I, as a trainer and as a consultant, I would be happy if you pick any and decided to use that one, because that will give the better communication methods to our whole company, and you can lead people and the group of services and projects just nicely. If we jump, that was a big question, so that's why I need to answer like widely. So the next phase is the project management and the Prince. Prince mainly come, everybody's starting to think some music, some competing for Michael Jackson, and thinking about the Prince as an artist. But now we're talking about projects. So what happened with this name? This name is coming from project in controlled environment. So ITIL and Prince, you cannot use these methods if you are kind of a rebellious, really, how can you say, if you don't have a structure in your company. So mainly these are made for companies who wants to have a structure, some kind of structure. So there's tens of different kind of methods which are competing with Prince2, but what is also really nice in Prince2 that you can only use some part of Prince's methods or processes or things what you want to succeed within your company, and not necessarily no need to take it all and take it as a heavy way to there. And what comes to today, as we speak, CCTA is there not anymore. These things and methods are owned by Axelos, UK-based company. If I'm not mistaken, it's half owned by UK government still, and half of it is the private company. And what I really like in these methods, they both go to the same direction, and the direction is value. So both are seeking and trying to push and squeeze a value out of your systems, of your services and your projects. Long story.
Yeah, but I think this is great as part of the topic for our series, because, we're looking at what does a well-run company look like, right? And, what are the things that they're having to do? And very interesting, as you said, with ITIL 4 becoming more agile, which is obviously a trend with things, but also ITIL 5, that's going to include things like sustainability. These are the new pressures on companies and the governance that they need to follow now as well. Now, and then the other, talking about structured companies. I love the fact that you said, there's 40 methods out there. You don't care which one it is. You're agnostic about that, but pick one. And it's the same with so many other tools that we look at. And I'm sure that we'll cover in this series. It might be, I don't know, sales process optimization. Don't care what CRM you use, as long as someone's putting the data in and they're using it. Please, Andy, go.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you it's really interesting listening about ITIL and Prince2. We work with a lot of founders, CEOs, and entrepreneurs through various parts of the journey. My first question, are you familiar with the Entrepreneur's Operating System, EOS, at all? Is that something you've come across? Because I was interested to know where, entrepreneurial people are aligning management teams and layers within a business as they grow. If you have any advice or suggestions as to the size or scale of a business at which they really should be looking to put professional processes and things in place.
Yeah, I see that system as a strategical, like a upper system for helping these lower level services or projects to work on. If I look it in a way that if you have a like project manager, for instance, or service manager, for instance, they definitely would need with their team this kind of a system, but you need to build it in a way that this will help to like build the bigger picture and the system, like entrepreneurial operating system, like you mentioned, and it's definitely connected. Mm-hmm. But however, you should not perhaps take that as a part completely to establish the EOS or something. But they will definitely support each other, since as I've been a CEO myself, I understand, like an entrepreneur as myself, we need to establish like a solid 4 to 6 years main way and direction, and then like choose carefully those strategical goals what we are aiming for. And I see that system definitely will help to establish those big movements upper side. But definitely when we are start to think like what language we are talking to each other within the company, then we need to decide methods like ITIL or PRINCE that everybody can be part of and joining. Yeah.
And thank you. And you said that we're on ITIL 4 now. What differences have there been in the iterations, say from 3 to 4? And then what changes can you see going forward as well?
Good question. As we see now, it's been already here almost 50 years now. So I've been in the places where I've been thinking like that's just like too old. We should not use that method. But as we can see here now, there's like hundreds and hundreds of professionals who are actually flying back to UK every year. They have this conference and they talk each other. They have measured in this in different fields of expertise, different field of businesses, and checked like is this really working still or not?
Mhm.
And they start to think like what kind of versions we need to establish from now on. Mainly it goes to like really big changes what happens in the business life. Like I mentioned, the process way of thinking in 2000 to service way of thinking now as we speak. But it doesn't really matter. There is still like old-fashioned companies who are using old methods and old ITIL versions, and I've seen it in my own eyes how it works. Doesn't matter about the methods, but if companies decide to use something and educate their own employees, everybody to join, there's like phenomenal success comes afterwards. I have a beautiful story, if I may. There was, Canon. Canon is a big company. I used to work for Canon almost a decade myself. I like to call it like a Stockholm syndrome. They was hijacking me to to work for them. But I work here in Finland, in Europe, and also in United Arab Emirates. So I saw that company like from different angles. And if you think about Canon, you think about, I'm quite sure that Andrew and Rob, you think about cameras, you think about photocopiers and this kind of paper stuff and stuff. So, but there has been a software business 1990 in that company. So I was in charge of establishing those software sales positions in Finland, in Europe, and also in the United Arab Emirates. So our CEO at the time decided in Finland that every living soul needs to go to the ITIL 3 version, even though it was quite old-fashioned at the time. And we did. And after, when everybody had some methods, and we started to see that we are talking the same way, we are seeing the value in the same way, and after everyone was done in this training, we applied for European leadership program and check how we can manage as a company against other companies in Europe. And we won the whole competition. And that was really beneficial for the company. Also, the profit line, entrepreneurs are also always interested about like what happens in the profit line. We were really profitable after those years when everybody was doing it the same way. But mainly these versions coming if needed. And now as we speak, we're still in the 4 and it's still working.
I think you're coming away from the versions and the specifics of ITIL. It'd be really interesting to expand on the Canon example, and in terms of understanding ITIL or whatever methodologies we're talking about at a level of the organization, the culture, leadership, etc. But then the level of project and delivery excellence. You talked about things like profitability, and my non-existent experience of Italy is always used to think of it as very big public procurement projects, building warships or something like that. So it would be great if we could maybe get into, whether it's with Canon or some other clients you've been working with, in terms of how it's shaped things at a leadership, culture, organizational level, strategic, and then how it's shaped things at a operational level for things like project and delivery excellence.
Really great question, Rob. And thanks for giving me this idea of giving stories, because, usually we're, bringing these big company names like Apple, Microsoft, IBM, Canon, you name it. But mainly, if we're looking in entrepreneurial stuff and the company's sizes, there's even small and medium-sized companies who will definitely benefit from this different kind of method. So good point that you don't necessarily need to be big to have it. So the smallest companies who have founded benefits and success from these kind of methods have been 20 people, even 10 people. It's that powerful method if you think about this. Let's take this ITIL, for instance. When we are talking about service management, so there's this service value system. We decided like how we will service our customer and clients when they are contacting us, and we will bring our valuable product or service to them. There has been software business coming out of this ITIL as we speak now. And there's really big players in market as we speak, and it's hundreds of millions now. And there's many competitors. There's even one in Finland as well, which was bought by a German-based company. So perhaps I can give you some names as well, so you can have better understanding. There's ServiceNow from UK, who started, and they are mainly coming from this method. So it's really powerful to think about. And there's a Matrix 42 who was buying Efecte, who was in Finland. So that's beautiful part of it. But as a small and medium-sized business companies, what I have here, they mainly have changed their models of giving business. In the software business, Rob, we have been doing similar projects as well. So one thing is that you can perhaps change your whole company model from just doing IT projects to establish something SaaS-based and give only SaaS-based services, which are giving you annual recurring revenue. So long story short, you can do something hard today, so you can do easy things tomorrow. So especially companies like 40, 50 people, it might be that you need to sell a project every year to have a work and jobs for everyone in the company. So after ITIL course and PRINCE2, you can start to establish something that it's a continuum business, like SaaS based or so, and you start to establish that part of your business. Yeah.
How interoperable is ITIL and Prince with other delivery models that perhaps you and I have worked on before, which is, if as you said, we've worked together on the software side of things, and we're normally looking at waterfall, which is perhaps if it's something like, I don't know, a medical device or something like that, it's not dead. There's some reasons for having well-defined requirements, even though most of the time we've moved away from throwing that over the wall, right, to Scrum, which I've seen used really well. I've also seen that being misused and being pushed back as well. And most of us think of as Scrum as things like 2-week sprints and that sort of stuff. So not necessarily seeing the big picture, which can be frustrating for a product manager. I don't know. Through to Kanban, sort of flow focused stuff. And then what I've seen used quite well most of the time, but sometimes also can be abused, is more of a hybrid model around those things, right? So you sort of try and take the best of everything. that gets complicated, and you have to be careful you aren't just doing the things that you want to do. But so just to go back on the question now, there are other sort of delivery type models, these projects. Do they fit in with ITIL and Prince, or do they fight with that?
That's really a common question in my courses when people are joining. They are asking like, "Are we now doing everything through to ITIL?" And no, as the name will tell you that it's a library.
Mm-hmm.
ITIL is taking the different models like hybrid or Scrum models within their own library. So now as we speak, there's few slides and few pages there that mentioning Scrum, for instance, and but for that you need to take another course and go to the Scrum model and learn that in a hard way. I myself, I'm a big fan of waterfall myself. I'm kind of old-fashioned in a way. Perhaps the military background is there. I love to see deadlines. I love to see when people are, succeeding and doing the things what we have been talking to. And in the software business, it's sometimes really hard to see the 2 week sprints. And after that, they say like, oh, we need to have another 2 weeks to find something else and doing these retrospectives and stuff. I can give you an example. I was in selling purchase to pay system for the tallest building on earth now as we speak, Burj Khalifa in Dubai.
Yeah.
So we spent like 6 months to establish the foundation for giving these services to the Mar who own the building. So there's hundreds and hundreds of different kind of project managers and service managers, and we try to convince them to have like a software which will do it more fluently. But they were so keen to these waterfall methods that they see as a like labor force and workforce their benefits. So we kind of lost the case because the customer didn't get that we want to that different kind of delivery model is better than the old-fashioned waterfall model. And the funny thing was that the purchases and the bills were getting to their table through table T-boys. So they have these kind of servants there who was giving the bills, but also they were giving their coffee, they were giving their tea, and they see it as a service like phenomenal, old-fashioned, really nice service what they would like to have, and they were kind of scared that they get rid of those T-boys and servants. So they decided not to have our system within their own company. Funny story.
Yeah, so there's some misconceptions basically when you're going in and talking about projects, and
Yeah.
I'll come back to my question. I'll let Andrew dive in.
So I'm really interested to know. I'm thinking about it from our customer base perspective, be it a service business that's got 100 to 150 people working all over the place on different services being provided residentially and commercially, through to a host travel agent that we're working with in Canada that's got thousands of travel agents that are running their own independent business. And they obviously all have different workflows, processes, communication challenges. What's your recommendation and advice? So out of taking away the tech or IT piece, what recommendations would you give broadly to businesses that want to improve their projects and programs, given now that obviously it's very normal for a lot of companies to have people working remote?
Really great question, Andre. The short answer would be like choose any model or different method to make the communication in your company way. So the way
Yeah.
of work needs to be something. So it's more like cultural lead today. It's not a HR, it's a culture. And we need to have some communicational system. And what I like here in ITIL, the communication and culture is a huge part of that package. So the first thing would be the human beings, employees, people who are working for the company. But the longer answer would be to take some part I mean, the key players of your company and put them in some kind of a method or process that they will understand what our company nature is and what is the value that our clients see. And all these methods, I think all the others as well, other than Prince and ITIL, they are mainly trying to find the value. So, but it's not an easy thing to do, an easy thing to understand what is the value our company is doing. And as a CEO, I would love to see that everyone, if I shaking there and waking them when they're sleeping, they can tell in the 20 seconds what is the value our company is giving.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And final point on that, from my understanding from what you're saying then, is if you're running a company that you know you're looking to grow and you're going to hopefully obviously be employing more people and growing the business, it doesn't sound like it's ever really too early to try to adopt really good professional processes and program management theories. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah. There's no right time. There's no wrong time to have it. You can start today. I'm glad if you started a decade ago, but there's
I wish I had.
definitely a value for having this kind of any kind of method within company. Yeah.
Thank you. That's great to know.
So we've looked at things at quite a high level at this point in general principles, and I would like to dive in because you're a very pragmatic person, Juuso, right? So I'd really like to understand at a very pragmatic level, not maybe a theoretical level, in terms of you get helicoptered into, say, a travel business in Canada. What are the steps that you go through with that business to establish their value and then start getting into their process improvements and I guess change management aspects to make sure that those things are adopted and implemented and executed well, right?
Yes, that's a huge part. Change management is there. It's in actually both models. It's in Prince. It's in ITIL. It's because everything is changing all the time. So we need to decide how we are managing these changes. But in your case, if you talk about this helicopter company or travel agency, I would definitely choose another book first, and that book will be Service Desk. So we need to know in service desk, they need to have like a wider understanding of the organization. They need to be really, their empathy needs to be there, really great communication and understand how we will service our clients in a better way. And many companies are thinking that they have everything settled in that field. And, if I give you an example of 2 months ago, Jeff Bezos, CEO of Amazon, they were having managerial meeting, and the manager was saying to Jeff that everything is settled in the service desk. So he was like, "Hey, let's try immediately." And he was calling from the managerial meeting to service desk and measure those amount of time what took to settle his issue. And nothing worked. Nothing really worked. That's the number one thing to check.
Thank you.
How do you measure the outcome of success of such a change taking place?
You're talking about the servicing clients or
Yeah,
issues.
I mean, you've worked with a client, implemented the change with them. You know, when do you go back and check to see if things are working and has it impacted the bottom line? Yeah.
You see these things through clients for sure, and service is another thing. Usually there's a SLAs, as we know, SLAs in place. So it might be that we will immediately see that we don't have any fines anymore from our clients, that we are overdoing something or not delivering on time. You mentioned those travel agents in helicopters, so let me give an example for that. There's vessels which are bringing the stuff to the oil rigs and oil and gas places in North Sea area. So if they are delayed by an hour from that vessel, you get fined like 1 million or something. So there is services in the world where you need to be on time, and SLA is another point of view. But of course, there's services like software that it works, it doesn't work, you don't, necessarily die because of that, then you can see that we can have like survey every 3 months and you can see the numbers. I used to work as a CEO in a software company. We were establishing systems for universities and vocational schools. So everybody knows that ERP and enterprise resource planning systems are the most hard ones, and nobody usually don't like them that much. So when I started, I started at least to ask from clients, but usually sometimes it's the case that we don't ask clients, like, how are you guys? And we had school number 6.4 out of 10. And I was kind of disappointed. I knew that ERP is really hard to use, but I mean, 6.3, nobody was happy. So we start to establish kind of a service value system to establish them and giving them more information and what is the valuable updates are coming next month, this month, and so. So after 1 year, we raised that number from 6.4 to 7.4. And that was the day I was starting to be happy, because it's hard to have an 8 or 9 from ERP system. If you talk about photocopiers, I know there's 5 billion papers printed even today, even though in countries like Finland we don't necessarily use printers anymore. But if you look at numbers, that might be the client happiness rate might be even 100%. Because it's old-fashioned processes and value. Everybody know how to use them, and so it depends on the case. Yeah.
Interested to know, based on your experience and the work that you now do with companies, if you've got a CEO, leader, founder who's building the company and they know that they need to now implement some technology to help with workflow, but as part of that, they also need to work out the process and the project behind it. At what point should they get somebody like you involved? Would it be once they've identified the technology that they want, or would you ideally want to work with somebody before that?
I've been in many different phases of project, but I definitely prefer to be in front of anything happens. Yeah, definitely. So not necessarily that I would be the one who is choosing anything, but to have a better view, to better understand the main goal and the value, what they are looking for. Perhaps stop and check and look the strategy, what he wants to achieve in 6 years' time, and does this support on those things? And I mean, I think every consultant would say the same. And because we are mainly here because we know some IT, we know technology, and we know something from people and how to speak with people. And connecting these 2 dots would definitely help these entrepreneurs and CEOs to see it better. Yeah.
That's why I asked the question, because especially now, so many businesses go, right, we need to find a piece of technology that's going to create the solution. Whereas actually, they probably need to come to somebody such as yourself first to say, this is the project, this is the flow. How do we achieve the goal? As opposed to going for spending hundreds of thousands, if not millions, on development immediately and then going all over the place, potentially coming to you to say, this is what we're trying to achieve, and then work with someone such as yourself to come up with the overall plan.
Absolutely. Yes. That's how
Excellent.
it is. But as I go, there's also like failures. We are human beings, and even with consultants, sometimes projects are not going in the goal. I give you really harsh example from Germany. There is this Germany crockery store chain, Lidl. I believe it's
Yes.
it's a huge one. I think their budget and revenue is almost like half of Finland. So it's huge crockery chain. So they decided that we would like to have now German based collaboration with SAP. And they used 7 years, and there was consultants even within the project, and they were not able to connect SAP systems, what they usually actually use in Walmart, United States. They tried to use the same methods in Germany and for Lidl. And the problem behind it was really, really simple, and they didn't get it. Lidl is a company who wants to know the profit when they're buying some product to their ERP. So they want to see the number. They know that they will do the profit by buying. But in Walmart, in the United States, they are using by selling. So they want to see sales cost and sales price. And they were not able to change the whole SAP system for Lidl, even with help of consultants. So 7 years, 500 millions went down. Yeah.
I'm reminded of a Gartner conference I went to many years ago, and 90% of business analytics projects failed. And
Wow.
I think a lot of the time is 90%. And they gave poor old SAP, we're going to give them another story here. So there was an implementation with SAP with a large company. And at the end of it, they said, yeah, we've got it all done on time, all done on budget. And the chief finance officer is like, I can no longer see half the reports that I used to have, but they weren't part of the requirement gathering that we did at the beginning. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and then the other problem is a lot of the time these are configuration projects. The consultants are going and configuring the software. They're not building the software, so it's not built for them. So as you say, everything was being built to show profits based on sales, not profit calculated at the point of purchase. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, super interesting. I think, look, the ideal for any of us, is to get it going early with the company and, and be able to put every structure and methodology in place at the start. The reality is, I'm sure you get called into firefights as well,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So
correct.
That's not my question. My question, however, might be related to that is, what is the point typically that you get? What is the trigger normally for a client to contact you? Is it because they've won a big project and they know they've got to put a team together and deliver it, be profitable? Is it because they've got a project failing, which is what I was alluding to a moment ago? Or is it at the point of inception of maybe starting a new company or a new business unit or a new service as such?
Good question. There is many of them, what you mentioned, but the main one, like 80% of the cases are usually that there is some malfunctioning within the people in the group of project management or service management. There might be in case in the software business in IT, there is some products that everybody wants to use, but they are mainly, it's like a workaround if you use that system in service management or project management. And I can mention one, it's Jira. Jira is that kind of thing. So sometimes it's a case that they have been using years of Jira and they want to have established better like service desk functions there. They want to establish like continuing improvements methods or something. And then we are in the phase that you cannot use this tool everywhere. So we need to have a service now. We need to have a Matrix 42. We need to have another system for that. So that might be the case. Mainly, wherever I go, I see things needs to be done better in the field of focusing a value. So there's a even group of people or departments who are not focusing on value, and it happens to me as well, to be honest. This is like guilty trip for me to teach ITIL after I've done projects myself, and I mentioned SAP in a bad way, so let me tell a good story about SAP as well. The biggest failure in my professional life was to establish time management system for universities. And there was 14 clients and they were buying that directly from us. And we established 1.5 years that system for them. We're using Scrum model. There was methods within. But in the user experience side, we didn't focus on value. So what the end client and end user is valuing. So we lost 14 clients to SAP. So even SAP was better program for using, and the user experience was better than us. And it was also cheaper, which I was like, wow, that's a big one. so that was the day I was starting to look back in ITIL library and reading this book myself to understand better like what went wrong and how did we do wrong things here.
Really
I'm glad
interesting. Thank you.
I'm glad we managed to make sure we didn't alienate SAP on the call today. Uh, I I think we've established to a certain extent, who should contact you. So, I mean, as we said, it doesn't matter if it's a company with 10 or 20 people, or a service delivery business with thousands of people. It doesn't matter if you're early establishing the business and you're an entrepreneur, or whether you're a project leader in a large public or private sector corporation. It's obviously international as well, and you have the international experience. So we know the who, we know the when, as well. It's okay if you're struggling and services aren't being delivered on time, and then you can contact Juuso if you want to make sure your new service will be best practice from the start. So, but how do people contact you, Juuso, and how do you want to qualify?
That's a good question. Thanks, Rob and Andrew, for having me and spreading this information of service management and project management. I really like to be in LinkedIn, and I even have my phone number there. And I only have one mobile number, so you can call me any day, anytime. And also answering those emails and LinkedIn messages as well. But I'm old fashioned. I prefer calls. I prefer WhatsApp stuff. So feel free.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we put this out, we'll make sure that in the comments is that we've got the contact details for you as well, to the Easy Company website where they can find your telephone number. Speak to you, sir. Yeah. Smile
Thank
and
you.
die. Let's go old fashioned.
Thank you. I'm
What
honored.
let's maybe just think about some actionable takeaways from here as well, and sort of maybe, if you don't mind, you sort of recap some of the core reasons why we want to be looking at these tools and best practices. Yeah, please. Yeah, why you want to be doing this, and how to get started. Just a couple of key takeaways would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So first thing to do is as an entrepreneur, as a CEO or owner of a business, needs to check what kind of services you are providing, offering. If it's only only projects, then need to have like a really structured way of thinking those and have those in a controlled environment. If you talk about services, then measure the amount. Are you happy the amount of services you have now? Are you doing right services? What is the benefit for the client and the client's client, the customer's customer who is using your services, not especially the ones you are making contracts for. Check that you have like perfectly defined and like structured service value chain when things are coming, opportunities and demands are coming to your company, and when you're having this magical factory, when you're establishing these services and bringing them to your clients, that the value will be there. So focus on value. That will be the last line of this podcast from me. Yeah, focus on value.
I have one final question. I don't feel we paid enough attention to the fact that you were working in defense forces in the Air Force and communications. What's the coolest aircraft you've ever had an experience of working with?
For me, my personally point of view, it's a Learjet. Learjet, I cannot recall the model, but I need to tell, there's a cool story behind. I was in charge of special computers. There was 100 special computers in Finland. There was Unix, Linux, and Microsoft connected together. If I tell you more, I need to kill you all,
Yeah.
There was Learjet coming from Germany to pick me up, to bring me to Helsinki. And they were calling me like, we need to have another gig. We need to bring Alexander Stubb, our new president, to somewhere. So I was the next, after the president, that was me to fly from Learjet. The most coolest thing was when the fire pilots with the F-18 experience, they went to the airport and they were like, hey, Juuso, we have never flight Learjet. We are jealous of you. And I was like, hey, I never flight F-8.
That's cool. Very cool.
Great ending question and answers. Juuso, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on and for us to wax lyrical about best practices and service management. And, Juuso is an absolute expert in here and a very lovely guy and very approachable for anyone who wants to have that initial conversation and qualify to take this forward. And I'd encourage every listener to do so. So great to get our first episode of functional experts here, right? And Andrew, you and I have got a bit of work to do to make sure we can find another interesting topic for the next one.
We've got to carry on. The bar is set. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Rob, for having me. And I hope you have a pleasure and great start for this podcast and for your channel. I'm quite sure that this will go out of the roof. Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.